On the night of December 16, 1773, Boston Harbor lay cold and silent under a winter moon. By dawn, 342 chests of British tea would be floating in its dark waters, and the relationship between Great Britain and its American colonies would be forever altered. The Boston Tea Party was more than an act of protest. It was the moment when resistance crossed the line into revolution. The roots of the Boston Tea Party stretched back years before that night. After the costly 7 Years' War, Britain faced massive debt and looked to its American colonies for revenue. Parliament imposed a series of taxes, including the Stamp Act and Townshend Acts, which angered colonists who believed they were being taxed without representation. Though many of these taxes were later repealed, resentment remained deep and unresolved. Tea became the next flashpoint. In 1773, Parliament passed the Tea Act, designed to rescue the struggling British East India Company. The law allowed the company to sell tea directly to the colonies at a lower price, undercutting colonial merchants and smugglers. On the surface, the tea was cheaper than ever, but to many colonists, the issue was not the price, it was the principle. Buying the tea meant accepting Parliament's right to tax the colonies. Resistance spread quickly. In cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Charleston, colonists prevented tea ships from unloading. But Boston, already tense and heavily occupied by British troops, became the center of defiance. 3 tea ships, the Dartmouth, Eleanor, and Beaver, sat in the harbor, unable to leave or unload without paying the tax. Governor Thomas Hutchinson refused to allow the ships to return to England, pushing the situation toward a breaking point. On the evening of December 16th, thousands of colonists gathered at the Old South Meeting House. After hours of debate and no compromise, a signal was given. That night, around 60 men, many disguised as Mohawk Indians, marched silently to the harbor. They boarded the ships, broke open the tea chests, and dumped their contents into the water. Remarkably, the protest was disciplined and controlled. No property was damaged beyond the tea itself, and participants even replaced a broken padlock. News of the Boston Tea Party spread rapidly across the colonies and across the Atlantic. In Britain, the reaction was swift and furious. Parliament viewed the destruction of the tea as an open act of rebellion. In response, it passed a series of punitive laws in 1774, known to the colonists as the Intolerable Acts. These measures closed Boston Harbor, curtailed self-government in Massachusetts, and allowed British troops to be housed in private homes. Instead of isolating Massachusetts, the Intolerable Acts united the colonies. Sympathy poured in from other regions, and colonial leaders called for coordinated resistance. In 1774, representatives from 12 colonies met at the First Continental Congress, marking an unprecedented step toward unity. What had once been a collection of separate protests was becoming a collective movement. The Boston Tea Party also changed the nature of colonial resistance. Before 1773, many colonists still hoped for reconciliation with Britain. Afterward, compromise seemed increasingly impossible. The destruction of the tea forced both sides into hardened positions. Britain demanded obedience. The colonies prepared for defense. Within 2 years, shots would be fired at Lexington and Concord, launching the American Revolutionary War. The Boston Tea Party did not start the war by itself, but it made conflict unavoidable. It showed that the colonies were willing to take bold, irreversible action to defend their rights. More than an event, the Boston Tea Party became a symbol. It demonstrated the power of organized resistance and the willingness of ordinary people to challenge authority. Its legacy reached far beyond Boston Harbor, inspiring future movements that believed freedom was worth the risk. By throwing tea into the sea, the colonists cast off more than cargo. They cast off the possibility of submission and changed history forever.